What's going on, everyone? For whatever reason, the San Antonio Spurs are supposedly shopping Dejounte Murray. There were talks that he would be traded to the Atlanta Hawks for John Collins, but that ended up falling through. Didn't end up happening. I don't know why you would want to trade him. He had an absolute breakout year last year, triple-double threat night in and night out. He's still young, tons of room to grow, and he's a guy that can really change your franchise in many ways. And there are countless teams that would love an opportunity for him. The reported asking price for Murray is 3 first-round picks in a Jrue Holiday-esque style trade package. If you go look back at that trade, that's kind of what the San Antonio Spurs are looking forward to in a trade for Murray. Now, like I said, many teams would love an opportunity to go get Murray, but there's only so many teams that have that type of trade package that they could offer, make salaries work or absorb salaries, things like that. And one of the teams that has been rumored and linked to a potential Dejounte Murray trade is the Boston Celtics. And the trade would look like this. Boston would get Dejounte Murray to pair up with the two Jays, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, which would be absolutely amazing if you're the Boston Celtics. I mean, to go get this guy, triple-double threat, night in and night out, young point guard. He fits the growth trajectory of the Boston Celtics. The Celtics were just in the NBA Finals. Adding a guy like him very likely could put you back there next year. There are some concerns I have just because, he's going from being the number one guy to the number 3 guy. And, how would that shape up? But if you can make it work, I mean, you do this trade all day. But Boston would receive Dejounte Murray, and the San Antonio Spurs get that Jrue Holiday-esque trade package in Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, and then a 2023, 2025, and 2027 first-round pick. But my concern with the San Antonio end of this would be that, yes, you're getting the 3 future picks, but Boston is going to be really good for the foreseeable future, with or without Murray. But you add Murray, these draft picks very likely aren't going to be that great, especially the 2023 first-round pick. 2025, it's only 2 years. I don't think the Boston Celtics are going to, fall off a cliff anytime soon as far as, being competitive. And even in 2027, that's 5 years out. But this team is young enough to where they could be still, a competitive finals level team, especially if they're all able to grow together, things along those lines. But for the Boston Celtics, again, if you have an opportunity to go get Dejounte Murray, you do it, and then you figure it out, right? Hopefully, he can kind of adjust, fit in. He's a guy that can help you on both sides of the ball. You don't have to give up Marcus Smart in this trade, which would be kind of surprising. You'd imagine that the San Antonio Spurs would want Marcus Smart, and maybe that's what ends up it takes to get Dejounte Murray. But even if you have to give up Marcus Smart, I think you go get Dejounte Murray. But if you can keep Smart and you have Murray, that would just be fantastic because you would still have one of the best defensive teams in the league, but you also have a guy that can be your distributor, can be your playmaker, can rebound the ball, excellent for a guard, can get you, 20-plus points a game, night in and night out, gives you that other consistent scorer, because that was a big problem that the Boston Celtics had, was that, Jaylen Brown was that guy, night in and night out. He was the fourth quarter go-to guy. And Jason Tatum really just sort of disappeared at times. And Jason Tatum gets in his own head, and he just becomes very ineffective at times. And so it'd be nice for the Boston Celtics to have a guy that has that type of confidence that Jaylen Brown has. If you put Jaylen Brown's confidence into Jason Tatum might be the best player in the league. I mean, he is incredible. But he gets into his own head. So it'd be very beneficial to get a guy like Dejounte Murray who has that same, I'm the best player on the court night in, night out. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to go get 30. I'm going to go grab a triple-double real quick, and just night in and night out, you'd have that drive. You'd have that young asset that could really do that. I just think if you're the Boston Celtics and this deal is really on the table, you pull the trigger. You do that immediately. I don't know how much sense it makes from a San Antonio perspective, but from a Boston perspective, this works night in and night out. If it doesn't work, you still have a young guy that many teams would want, and you'd probably still be able to get a nice return for him. So if it works, beautiful. You got this big 3 that you can run with for quite a while. You still have Robert Williams as your big man threat. that Dejounte Murray can go and now he becomes an immediate lob threat, somebody that he can dump the ball down to, all of those things. You still have Marcus Smart. You still have a lot of pieces that you could use to better the team, or if it works beautifully, then great, it works beautifully. If it doesn't, then like I said, you can always move him for another piece, another guy. Maybe you go get a Bradley Beal or something like that. Him and Jason Tatum are best friends. We've talked about that potential trade in a potential future. But if you can get Dejounte Murray, I would take Dejounte Murray over Bradley Beal at this point right now. Just because, like I said, he's young enough. He fits the age group of these Boston Celtics. He's a guy that does a lot of the things that you want from Bradley Beal and then some. And he's a guy that can run the offense and take so much pressure away from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. He just does so much for that team. It would be a great fit if you can make it work. Again, how will he adjust to go from being that number one guy, the face of the franchise, the guy that is responsible for everything, to basically being the third option? Because I don't think he's a better scorer than Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum, given the type of player he is, at least mentally, he might end up taking a step back. And is that something you really want if you're the Boston Celtics? Do you really want to run the risk of Jason Tatum? Maybe now he becomes the third guy, and now, he kind of becomes even more ineffective than he can be at times. Because when Jason Tatum is on, the Boston Celtics are a scary team. It's just him consistently doing that. And we saw in the NBA Finals, he was just really absent. He just wasn't there. And they would have hugely benefited from a guy like Murray on their team. But hopefully the idea is Jason Tatum got the experience. He got the sort of skeletons out of his closet during the series. He kind of conquered that beast. And hopefully if they get back there, he will be sort of reawakened in many ways. We have seen lots of guys, get there. They don't show up. I mean, even Steph. People were killing Steph in the NBA Finals several years ago. And now look, now the guy's dropping 30 a game very easily. But like I said, for the San Antonio Spurs, I don't know why you'd want to trade him. I mean, he's young enough to where even though you're still rebuilding, even though you're trying to recoup and do whatever you can do, he's still young enough to fit what you're trying to do currently. It's not like he's 33 years old and it's like, okay, it's time to move off of him. Let's trade him and begin the rebuild. You can still rebuild and keep him. I don't know why they'd want to get rid of him, especially for a package like that. Like, I could see if you're getting a couple young guys, like if you were getting a Jaylen Brown, right? I'm not saying that this would happen, but like, let's say, they came to you and they were like, hey, we'll give you Jaylen Brown for Dejounte Murray, then yeah, I would do that. Or like a Jason Tatum, then yeah, I would do that. But I mean, you're talking about a 24-year-old point guard who damn near averaged a triple-double last year and has just been an absolute monster. I mean, he's got a 6'10 wingspan. He's 6'4. I mean, he's got size. And I mean, real size for a guy. He's a gem at the 29th pick in the first round in 2016. I mean, what more could you want? Like, that's about as good as it gets. And again, the Spurs are in this weird spot of like, we're trying to rebuild, but we're not bad enough to full-fledged rebuild. And maybe that's why. Maybe they're looking at it as like Murray's maybe a little too good to jumpstart our rebuild. But this is a guy that if the Spurs can put enough talent around him, you would likely have a lot of success. And you might be able to attract somebody else to come and play with Murray because he is young and he is that kind of on the rise kind of guy. He's one of the best 25 and under players in the league right now. So why not keep him? I mean, unless you just get some monstrous package. If you got like a Hunter and Collins for him, and maybe like a first round or something, then yeah, maybe you go that route. Maybe you do that to kind of hopefully jumpstart your rebuild a little more. But I mean, even the Collins for Murray trade, just didn't make a ton of sense to me. It was like, what's the point? Why would you? Your goal in drafting is to get a guy like him. But you already have that guy on your team. So why would you want to give him up to maybe draft a guy that is going to be as good as him, maybe better. But like, again, he's already an extremely solid player. He's already, one of the best guards in the league, as far as like young players and guards in this league. I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's, top 5 or anything like that, but he's on the rise, and who knows how good he's going to be next year. He's got another year under his belt, and he really broke out this last year. If he could replicate that and he can keep that consistently, like, this is a guy you want to keep around. This is a guy that you use to build your team around, right? At least that's how I would see it. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think about a potential trade for Dejounte Murray if you're the Boston Celtics? Do you think absolutely you do whatever it takes, you pull the trigger, you trade whatever you have to trade to go get him out? Outside of the two J's, Jason and Jalen, as long as you're not trading them, I mean, if you're the Boston Celtics, I would pretty much be like, hey, take your pick of what you want, because I just think those 3 are all good enough and all young enough to very likely you're in a finals and potentially winning a finals. I think that they would be, one of the best teams in the league, and you're not losing anything on the defensive end. You're not losing anything on any end. You're actually gaining and being better. And then from the San Antonio Spurs side, like, what do you think about them wanting to trade Dejounte Murray? Does it make sense to you? Does it not? Like, what is your thinking and logic? If you're somebody that's watching this video and it's like, yeah, it does make a ton of sense, like, what is your logic behind that? Because I just can't wrap my head around, like, why would you want to trade him? He's not 30, he's 25 years old. He's only going to improve. He's only going to get better. He hasn't even really hit his prime yet. Like, that's a guy that you want to keep. Like, you could go get 3 draft picks, but your goal is to draft a guy hopefully as good as Dejounte Murray. I just don't understand it from a San Antonio Spurs perspective, but maybe you can help me better understand down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.